Welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today we're covering Real Housewives of New York, Season 12, Episode 6, Just the Sip. So we start the episode with Lou and Jacques. Of course, Jacques is from about 2011, I think it flashed. And as she explains that they have a healthy relationship, they've stayed in contact, he's engaged. And it's too bad because I actually always liked Jacques. He seemed like a nice guy. I've been an avid watcher from the beginning, and he seems like the only nice guy Lou has dated, including her ex-husband. They talk a little bit about her sobriety, and Lou explains that she has been tempted, but she made a promise to herself to wait because she just finished with her probation. Says, "You're asking a wine merchant? A glass of red wine at dinner is fine." They talk about doing the Chanel in the City podcast event. And apparently Jacques is doing stand-up, which we'll see later in the episode. It's pretty funny. I guess pretty funny that he's doing stand-up, that is. Lou plays Feeling Giovanni for Jacques very loudly at the Tavern on the Green, which is ridiculous. She turns it up. She's dancing. She loves the sound of her own voice. So in the next scene, we got Dorinda. She's visiting her old townhouse that she used to share with Richard. And it's kind of funny just to see her wandering and looking at the townhouse and talking to the gate. She heads over to a restaurant that she used to visit quite a bit. I think she said once a week they would go there. Sonja, Ramona, and Elise end up coming to the restaurant as well. They toast John the waiter, which I found pretty funny because at first I thought they were toasting the dry cleaner, but nope, John the waiter. So then there's Sonja, being Sonja. She's doing a 5-day detox. She's shaking and pouring some awful brown liquid. She broke a zip on her fashion show dress, so she's trying to do a liquid diet. She's on liquids, soups, teas, and an occasional snack bar. So they comment that her hands are shaking when she's pouring that brown liquid into the cup. And she says day 3 is the worst day of a fast. Then we have Ramona, and she is talking about going to Luann's show. She says, "I want to support Luann. As long as Lou doesn't get out of control, I support what she wants to do." So she's kind of implying that Lou does take it day by day. She doesn't really have a problem as long as she can keep it under control. Well, the thing they're not talking about is that's the problem. I mean, I've never had a drinking problem, but I've definitely dealt with addictions of my own, and I know that you can't just have a little bit of something. I know I can't. So maybe she can, but I just think it's very flippant how they're talking about Luann's sobriety. We see Tinsley and Dale. So they explain that Dale likes to come to town to see the dogs. Tinsley explains that she's broken up with this Bruce guy, that he's from Chicago, and she was hoping to bump into Scott while she was dating him, which is so weird. Weird reason to date somebody out of town. She's irritated with the girls. She says she's not going to let Dorinda walk all over her. And she's not going to deal with them ganging up. Then there's a shot of Dale telling her to get going on babies. She says get going on babies so she can croak, which I would say is morbid, but I'm pretty sure I've heard my mom say that. So then we have Sonja. Sonja is meeting with her brand manager? Question mark? She is having the funniest meeting with this guy and his wife, and I guess they're part of her brand, and he's explaining to her that the first year they lost $5,000, the second year they made nothing, and 2017 was a loss. And that they've sold 300 to 500 pieces to a very select customer group. She asked if he got more sales from the fashion show, and his answer was no. Then she explains that Century 21 wants to buy the collection. Now, I've never heard of Century 21. I don't know if you have. So I looked them up. And they actually do have Sonja's stuff on there. There are about 21 pieces listed, and they're listed about 44 to 47% off. Now, did you know that Sonja had a fragrance? I did not know that. She had a fragrance listed on the site here. It's called Sonja by Sonja Morgan, because of course. And it's listed at 30% off, and it's $49.99. I'm very curious what that smells like. Does it smell like her old townhouse? So we see Leah in her apartment downtown. I really would like to see her apartment. I don't think they've shown it yet, and I'm interested to see what it looks like. She's talking to Rob, her ex. They're talking about wanting to date. She's revealing that her mom is still not speaking to her. So she's trying to figure out what to do about that. Then we have Luann and her publicist. I'm sorry, that just makes me laugh. And her podcast Chanel fundraiser for bullying and incarcerated people. Okay, so I think it's Dorinda that points it out later. But it's a lot of causes for one thing. Bullying and incarcerated people and female comedians, I believe. It just makes me laugh. It actually reminds me of The Office. Do you remember Michael's fun run Race for the Cure? So silly. It's a lot of stuff. Anyway, so we have Luann. She's practicing her jokes for that night, and she reveals that she's going to use the line, "I never effed the pirate," to introduce Jacques. So you can imagine how well that went over for him. But for us fans that have been there the whole time, I support it. I thought it was a funny callback. So then Leah and Ramona are in a car together headed to Luann's event. And I don't know why, but this combo strikes me very odd. I think Leah and Ramona are probably polar opposites. So I find it funny that they're in the car together. Ramona's at least pretending to like her for now. Ramona is telling her that she should talk to her mom, and Leah is explaining that she texted her and got no response. Ramona's encouraging her to go in person. Leah feels over-the-top judgment from her, and that her achievements outweigh her failures, and she doesn't want to be judged on the failures. And again, I find Leah such a breath of fresh air. Like, she's so articulate, and I mean, that's a great way to put it. We all have achievements and failures, and nobody wants to be judged on our failures, and especially by your family. So I thought that was a pretty good point. So then you have Ramona saying, podcasts have gotten really popular. I don't have time to watch. So, wow. This kind of rung a bell in my head, so I jumped on my Google machine, as you do, and I looked up Ramona podcasts, and I am reminded that there's a podcast called Adderall and Compliments. I'm sure you've heard of it, and it's pretty funny, and the host deleted it, unfortunately, but she interviewed Ramona, and apparently it was such a train wreck. She said she was just so horrible throughout the interview that the interviewer ended up in tears. It was just terrible behavior. I believe that Ramona was late and Avery was being rude, and it was a whole thing. I'm going to show you the Reddit that I was reading about this because it's so interesting to me, and I wish I could find it. If any of you can find it, please let me know where it is because I really want to hear the interview. But it sounds like she made Annabelle wait, and she chastised the host for mentioning Bethany in any capacity. She got super awkward, made her re-record it. She lectured Annabelle on how she can do better at podcasts and be more successful like Ramona. Okay. So, sounds like Ramona is a monster in real life. Not that we're shocked by this. So, back to Lou's night. All the girls come in to support Luann. Oh my goodness, support Luann. All I can think of is Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Teddy got mad at Dorit for saying she came there to support her. It just makes no sense. Okay, so back to New York. Dorinda's saying that she and Leah and Tinsley should have lunch. So they're hoping that Leah can be kind of a mediator or moderator between Tinsley and Dorinda since they can't seem to communicate. There's Jacques. He asks Ramona, have you ever bullied anyone? Again, it's funny that I just found this article on how she bullied that podcast host. But there's a flash. Oh, I love you, Bravo editor. There's a flash of all these past scenes of her bullying people. It's crazy. She talks terrible to everybody, from staff to other cast members. It's just Ramona's world. And then Dorinda, they flash to her being crappy with Sonja, Luann, and Tinsley. Lou's talking about how she hasn't had a drink since rehab/probation. Dorinda is doing this very strange thing at this point. She's keeps saying, "You're not an alcoholic." And what makes her qualified to diagnose that? And Lou gets excited by this and says, "That's what Jacques said." Then there's the moment we've been, I don't want to say waiting for, but that we've been seeing in the advertisements, and we knew it was going to be a doozy. Who asks the ladies, "Is this water?" And Ramona tries to stop her and says, "No, this is all vodka." And Dorinda is saying, "No one is judging you. Do what you want," as Lou takes a sip of this. So it was just so weird. Dorinda was encouraging her to drink. My suspicion is it's to take eyes off Dorinda's drinking. Just my guess. I don't know. Just a theory, putting it out there. Then Elise asks her, "So you're not in AA?" And Dorinda decides to get offended at this question and says, "You're not her judge and jury, Elise." And believe me, I'm not a fan of Elise. I don't know this Elise. I have not heard good things about her. But I thought she made a pretty good point here. She says, "I know Lou and Dorinda are drinking buddies, but she just got done with AA and probation. If I were Lou's buddy, I'd be pulling a drink out of her hand." And that's exactly right. Yeah, you can't make anybody do anything, but if you're a friend, you don't want to see them fall back on old problems, or old addictions. I don't know. Dorinda really bothered me on this one. And I loved Dorinda in the past. It's just this season's not great for her. And this is not a good look, encouraging her friend who's clearly got a problem to drink. Okay, so Lou's on stage and they're showing like the step and repeat behind her, and they're showing the signs behind her. And Dorinda says exactly what I said earlier, which is, "We have lots of causes tonight. We have prison. We have women in comedy. We have bullying. I don't know if I should laugh, cry. I just don't know what to do." So then we have Lou reading from a diary. So then Jacques gets up to do comedy. And Dorinda is really funny here. She's explained that she can't understand Jacques. And what I could kind of understand sounded kind of funny, but awkward. I was a little cringy. Sonja says, "I always loved some Jacques, and maybe in French he's hilarious, but in English? So then there's a montage of the comedians. I use that in quotation marks. Sonja says, "I'm very intuitive. I've always been able to have the pulse of the room. I can tell you that this room is dead." She then, also Sonja's my hero, she says, "I can't eat the food. I can't have a drink. This isn't funny." So Sonja and Ramona, of course, have to kind of get up and move around and make themselves the center of attention. Elise points out that Ramona dances like Elaine from Seinfeld, which was very funny and, not wrong. Tinsley is telling the group that she broke up with Bruce and that she wants to be single for a little bit. Ramona says she's proud, and I say that with a question mark. She's picking her up and dancing around like this is a huge deal. And this comes from Ramona, who is like losing her mind over being single. They go down this slide, which is interesting for a bar. Dorinda reminds Leah of the Thursday lunch. Leah says Dorinda is a little bit intimidating. So Dorinda turns to Tinsley and says, "She says you're intimidated by me." That's not what Leah says. And Leah even says, "No, I didn't say that. I said you're intimidating." Dorinda and tequila, no bueno, baby. That's what Leah said. Dorinda in her talking head says, "Leah says Tinsley is intimidated by me." And of course she is. Tinsley is intimidated by a butterfly. Again, not what Leah said. So we wrap up the episode with Ramona and Lou playing ping pong. Dorinda is mad and drunk. And Leah says, "Two women are so stuck, they don't need mediator, they need a miracle. So pretty good last line of the episode. So then we get a flash of next week. Dorinda and Sonja, page 6. They're assuming that Ramona sold a story. Luann takes the girls to a pumpkin patch. Dorinda and Tinsley are fighting. We see Sonja peeing in a field. And the girls go wine tasting, which, that's not a great idea. So should be fantastic. I can't wait. I'm super excited. So another great episode. I did think this one was a little bit slower, but I thought it was still really good. I'm curious to see what's going to happen next week. Should be interesting. It's hard for me to really love any one of the ladies individually, although I'll always have a soft spot for Sonja. I really do love this Leah. I think she's a great addition to the cast. And she is level-headed. So it's just interesting, to see her interact with the other ones. So should be good. I'm super excited. So check out my other shows. I'm covering Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and, of course, RHONY. And I'm covering Below Deck Sailing. I'll be covering Below Deck Mediterranean when it comes out. I'm so excited. And I've been covering Fleabag. So take a look at my other episodes. And thank you so much for watching and listening. I appreciate it. And I'd love to know your thoughts. Let me know. Take care. Bye-bye.